The next contestant is Jill Barnard with a speech titled "A Date to End All Dates."
Thank you, contest chair. I'm done with dating. Done, I tell you. My marriage had been officially over for a few months, and I decided it was time to dip my foot back into the dating pool. More like dipping a big toe into a murky puddle of pond scum. That is what it feels like at my age. It is not pretty out there, let me tell you. I tried the dating apps, but I couldn't remember whether to swipe left or right. That led to some very interesting situations. Then I tried speed dating, and I sped right out of there. It was not for me. My friend had this brilliant idea. "I've got this building contractor," she said. "Why don't you go on a blind date with him? He's a bit of a rough diamond, but a good sort overall, and I'm sure you'll hit it off." What could possibly go wrong? I met my ex on a blind date 30 years before that, and we all know how that ended. But nothing else was working, so I thought, why not? Let me try it. We met for lunch, and he was 15 minutes late. I'm a bit of a stickler for punctuality. Still, I was patient, and we actually did hit it off. We had an amazing lunch, and he paid for it, which was, yeah, thank you, chivalrous, right? Amazing. So I agreed to see him again. I was off to Melbourne the next day for work, and he wanted to fetch me from the airport. A bit odd, I thought, because he lived quite far away from me. But hey, how endearing that he wanted to see me again. So I said yes, of course. The day arrived, and my boss and I arrived back from Melbourne, and she got into an Uber and left. And I waited, and waited, and waited. Yes, he was late again. Finally, he pulled up in this truck, and I mean truck, with a side mirror hanging off, and a beautiful but filthy dog sprawled across the seat. Where was I supposed to sit? I put my baggage in front and shimmied the dog over as much as I could, but I couldn't buckle my seatbelt. So I said, "Could you please help me?" And he made a half-hearted attempt and then drove off with me unbuckled. This was great. He then stopped at IGA and asked me if I'd please run in and get him a roast meal. He couldn't go in, you see, because he was in his pajamas. Yes, you heard that right. He came to fetch me from the airport in his pajamas. I ran inside and grabbed a beef lasagna, because it was the first thing I could find, and returned to the van and said, "Here you go, this is all I could find." He kind of humped and threw it one side and then proceeded to carry on driving, with me still unbuckled, I might add. He then told me that he'd lost his license 10 times, and the longest he'd been without it was for 4 years. But I really shouldn't worry, because he had it now. Phew, that's a relief. He then stopped at Nando's. He was too hungry, and the beef lasagna was going to take way too long to heat up. So he was going to just quickly run into Nando's and grab some food, and I could just wait there. I learned something new that day. You can go to Nando's in your pajamas, but not IGA. So I sat in the van, the truck, with the dirty but beautiful dog, and I waited and waited and waited I'm pretty sure I waited longer than that lasagna would have taken to heat 3 times over. In fact, I know that I could have walked home in the time that I waited in that truck. Still, I sat and I waited, and he finally returned, and we were on the homeward stretch. Thank goodness. We finally arrived at my apartment, and I grabbed my bags and was making to go in on my own, but he came up behind me with the dog in tow and was like, "Let me take your bags for you." They really weren't heavy. But I was raised to be polite, so I was like, "Thanks." And he followed me through my apartment door with the dog in tow. He then plunked himself on my couch and started eating his Nando's. I stood there saying, "Well, I'm really tired and I need to have a shower and go to bed." "Okay," he said, making himself even more comfortable. The dog, meanwhile, curled up on my bed. I jumped into the shower as quickly as I could. I had the fastest shower known to humankind, put on my ugliest pajamas that I could find, and then walked back through to the lounge where he was still making himself at home. I stood there and tapped my foot and, gave all the signals that I could possibly give that it was time for him to go. "Oh," he said, "I should probably go." "That would be great." I said, "I really need to get ready for work tomorrow and I'm tired." "Okay, I can't wait to see you again," he said. The feeling was not mutual. Do you know what I learned? That was a really bad situation to get myself into. And I was raised to be a people pleaser and to be compliant and a good girl. So you know what I did? I stopped dating. I grew a backbone. I started doing stand-up comedy. It was fun. It is fun. And I realized I'm not done with dating per se. I am done with dating rescues, people that need counseling or a mummy. So now when I see a red flag coming my way, I'm like, "Stop! No more." Thank you.